Okay, so you can see I've removed all of the radio head unit, all the components related to it, cleaned it all up, and there's a lot less wire bundle in here than there used to be. When you normally open it up, there's a big thick one across here, and there's pieces going out everywhere, lots of, like I said, wires and conduit and electrical tape wrapped around conduit and all of that. It can be a little bit confusing, a little bit intimidating because there's a lot going on. There's still a hell of a lot going on in there. But if we're focusing on the radio, we can actually ignore most of it. This bundle coming out of this over here, this is for the lights, this is the wires to the handlebar controls. We can ignore all that. It has nothing to do with what we're working on here. Same thing, this plug down here that's actually anchored to the frame, and you can see it runs up here to the back of the display. That's for the instruments. We don't care about that. All that we really care about is what connects into, this is the plug from the headset, is these plugs. And even within this, there's a lot there, but most of these we, again, don't care about. If we're doing an aftermarket stereo system, you know the connectors back on the back of your aftermarket unit. You've got your connectors for the front speakers, connectors for some rear speakers, some power ins, some inputs and outputs. There's a lot of these we don't have. We don't have all these, there's no connector for the digital display on the front. There's no connector for the, goes to like the GPS, satellite radio, whatever else goes in there. It's not going to be using this iPod connector. We don't need all of that, so we can ignore it, we can cut it away. What we get down to is speaker wires and power wires. That's all that we need from the stock harness. The speaker wires from the front should be pretty obvious. I hope you can figure them out. I would show them, but I got rid of these a long time ago when I created the speaker, so I don't have those. But there's that set of wires. Then the other piece that we care about is actually all on this 8-pin plug right here. From this stock radio harness here, there's across the bottom, there are 3 black wires and 3 tan wires. That's the power and ground. These 3 black wires, when you cut away all the wire bundle, you find that they all link into one thing, and it's just this big, thick, it's heavy, stiff wire. This black wire going to this plug, that's our ground. That's what they connect to. These 3 tan wires also connect together into one location. It's also a thick piece. This is a tan wire, and that just connects to this the fuse for the stereo system. You see your tan wire going in, and here's the heavy red wire that connects to that plug. This plug is the hot and ground for the radio. There are 4 orange and pink and combination of that wires. That's the rear speaker wires for your trunk or your bag lids, whatever you're using. And the other 2 is just the hot and ground for the accessory outlet cigarette lighter up front. So that's all we really have to care about. Coming out of there, the one that's a little more intimidating, a little bit scary, is actually that there's one bundle that comes into the back of the instrument panel. When you dig that open, you find there are 3 wires that actually connect to the stereo. 2 of them are relatively thick and heavy. It's the thickest and heaviest of the wires in that bundle. One is yellow, one is green. Those are for the CAN bus system that tie the entertainment system into the rest of it, but we're not using any of that, so we don't care about them. We can cut them off. But because it's the CAN bus system, we want to make sure that there's no corrosion. We don't need that to short out. We want to protect that because if that messes up, it can mess up the ECU and the whole bike's down, and you just don't want to be there. So I cut them off, dielectric grease, electrical tape to cap that off, and then some heat shrink tubing to make sure it's all going to stay in place and nice and tight. The other wire is I don't remember what they call it in the diagram, something along the lines of radio activation wire. Basically, this is your switched power for your head unit. The red wire over here is continuous power. Most aftermarket head units, you've got a power input for continuous power that's used for keeping the clock right, saving your station presets, whatever else is going on there, and then a switched power that actually allows the radio to turn on. That's what this is. Here's your wire that you can use for your power, and this is your switched power. I have no idea what power is available in this as far as amperage, wattage, even the voltage. If you're installing a head unit, I advise you to research that and make sure it can handle whatever you're installing. For the Fusion unit that I'm installing, it does not have separate inputs. It just has a single power input that it says to attach to a switched power source. This is switched, but I'm concerned about the how much capacity it has. So what I did is I just added, after the fuse, I just added a relay. So I'm going to be, the actual power for the radio is going to be coming from this nice, thick, heavy red wire that should be able to have no problem supporting that stereo unit. And this will just trigger the relay to let it turn on, so the radio will only come on if the key is on. I turn the key off, the radio will shut off and not drain everything. But that's really all the wires that we care about. All this other stuff we can ignore. We just want this this brown and pink wire to trigger when the key is on. We've got a hot and ground and the rear speakers in here, and we run our outputs over to here. Anything else is what you're installing. Obviously, you install an amp, you're going to need, here's my there's my 10 gauge wires to power my amplifier. Wherever else you're installing, that's up to you. But you can ignore whatever's part of the stock system because you're not going to be using it. That's part of your custom install.